a committed princess who carries her legacy lovingly on her slender shoulders, a youth icon that the nation adulates, and a style icon now who carries off her look to perfection. Princess Gauravi Kumari of Jaipur. She's here with us, who is today redefining the role of young royals that they must play in the democratic India. Welcome, Gauravi. Joining us on the panel today is another very interesting Maharani who comes from a legacy of and a family of Baroda, which probably have the, in fact, the Lakshmi Vilas Palace is the largest living residence in the world. It's 5 times the size of Buckingham Palace, spread over 500 acres, spread around, I mean, dotted with the Osler chandeliers, and we've all heard the story of the famous Baroda pearls carpet, and the Raja Ravi Verma legacy. There is a lot that the family of Baroda is associated with from the point of luxury and legacy. And today we have Maharani Radhikaraje Gaekwad, who's here to share with us what is the way forward of taking it. Hi, Radhika, and welcome. Please come. Come here. That's yours. Thank you both for being here. And I mean, India's seen a huge luxury and legacy synthesis which has been carrying over. India is probably one of the only countries in the world which boasts of the n number of royals that we have, taking us world over and everything. Gauravi, I'm going to start with you. Jaipur has been the design capital to India, just like Paris and Milan are. You have kind of all designers look at Jaipur for inspiration, whether it's prints or fabrics or colors. And you have a great heritage to follow with that. Your home, the City Palace, is also a board to some of the greatest crafts, karkhanas, and now you have set up a huge museum as well. How do you imbibe the history that you carry there and the design sensibility of PDKF and all the other crafts that you have?
Thank you, Ruchika. I think definitely Jaipur for me and for my family has been the most driving force behind everything that we create at PDKF. For those of you who you don't know what PDKF stands for, it's the Princess Diya Kumari Foundation. And during COVID, I set up a store for the foundation called the PDKF store. So coming back to your question, Ruchika, everything that we create at the store for the store is directly linked with Jaipur, as Jaipur being the main inspiration. I think whether it's the colors of Jaipur, whether it's the festivals of Jaipur, or just this essence of the city of Jaipur, I think that has been the main driving force and inspiration behind the brand. And when we talk about direct inspiration, I feel like if you see a lot of our clothes, a lot of the block printing motifs have been directly inspired by the motifs that one would see in the old angrakhas, or the old saris, some of the saris that have been displayed in the museum. So I think we've tried to make a conscious effort to kind of derive a very direct inspiration from the collection.
Great. I'm just going to ask you one more question on Jaipur, Gauravi. What is it that draws the world to Jaipur? Why is Jaipur on the dot of everybody's map?
You know, something very interesting, when Maharaja Jai Singh built Jaipur many years ago, his main vision, or so I've read and heard from my grandparents, was to make Jaipur a city where global arts, crafts, culture and fashion comes. So I feel like today, you know, to see his vision come to life, I don't think I can answer your question when you say, why is it that? But I feel like today, when we see a lot of global designers, a lot of global artists come into Jaipur and create beautiful things, I kind of feel that his vision of creating the Jaipur city is coming true and is coming to life. And I only wish that it grows and becomes even more culturally significant. And I wish that a lot more designers come and, acknowledge and make use of the crafts community of Jaipur and Rajasthan, because I feel like Rajasthan is one of the richest states when it comes to crafts and arts, and one can only hope that it continues to become, one of the global cities when it comes to culture and fashion.
Of course, I think you're right on the way, and you're doing a great job with the the Princess Diya Kumari Foundation as well. Radhika, Baroda, I mean, there's a huge legacy with that. There is so much about Baroda. The Lakshmi Vilas Palace, like I just said, is an artifact in itself, from the chandeliers to the carpets to the, what do you call them, the Diwani khas flooring, that's what you call them, the generous sculptures, and the semi-precious stones inlaid in them. What is most precious to you in this collection, and how are you maintaining all that wealth of artifacts in it?
Ruchika, what happens is when the space is a home, it's a museum class home, of course, but it's still a home. There is a sentimental attachment to everything. So one stops looking at it from the intrinsic value point, and you are a custodian and you belong to them much more than they belonging to you. That's what happens with legacy or homes like ours, where it's not about the home belonging to you, but you belonging to the home. And from that emerges a lot of humility and a sense of responsibility towards it. But if you ask me specifically which are my favorite, the most precious aspects of my living spaces, I would say they would be the Lakshmi and Saraswati paintings by Raja Ravi Verma, which adorn
Of course, the
Yes.
world looks at.
Yes, and they adorn the Gadi Hall as blessing the ruler to lead, the dynasty with prosperity and
the
wisdom.
Saraswati and the Radha in the moon.
Absolutely, absolutely.
India's Maharajas were kind of the close association with the world's biggest brands, from jewelry to cars to watches. The most expensive necklace from Cartier is still made for the Maharaja Patiala. There's never been a bigger necklace than that. I want to come back to the role that the younger generation, like both of you, are playing. Is that fascination still alive?
I think for me, definitely yes. I recently had the chance of witnessing some of the beautiful Cartier jewelry in Abu Dhabi. And I had actually worn some of that jewelry for the cover shoot that we did for the month of February.
For the Harper's Bazaar.
And I can't tell you because I wore some of that jewelry for the shoot back in August, and this time when we actually saw it displayed in the museum at the Abu Dhabi Louvre, I think it was more than just fascination. One really felt like, when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. So I think definitely that still lies, and a lot of it has to do with the long-term association that our families have had, perhaps with the brands. So, yes.
Radhika, what do you think is the next generation, like you and your husband Sam, doing to kind of modernize the whole culture? I mean, it's that fetish with brands isn't as relevant now with the younger generation like it used to be.
So I'll tell you something, Ruchika. The brands that we know as of today, when you talk of Louis Vuitton, you talk of Ferragamo, or all or Cartier, these important brands were associated with our families not because they were brands. They stood for quality. They became brands because they came to be associated with illustrious families and dynasties, which gave them further credibility. So, in that sense, families like us continue to look at value in terms of timelessness, quality, finesse, but I think the focus is on associating with something which is going to really add value to an individual. We are to make the person a personality. What is that distance that you take What is it? How far you take yourself to that? What makes an object a brand? I think that's where the synergy matches.
I think that's very well said, Radhika, and it's great perspective to how you are looking at things rather than the forefathers and the Maharajas. Gauravi, the City Palace has set up this beautiful museum with miniatures and many, many new artifacts. And you, of course, you and your mom have been personally very involved in kind of curating the whole thing. What is your favorite piece in there?
So from the photography and painting gallery, I would say my personal favorite would be definitely Savai Ram Singh's collection of photography. He was a visionary of his time, I think, and way like very fast. I mean, he foresaw those days. I feel like his collections included. He was the first gentleman, the first photographer to shoot women. And in those days, women maintained strict parda. So he was the first photographer who actually photographed some of these women. And one of those photographs that I'd like to talk about is a woman with a sword. And if you see that photograph, it's a very strong photograph of a woman standing with a sword in her hand. And I think it's so forward of those times. It also speaks a lot of women of those times. I feel like one is only heard when you talk about women in parda or women in the zanana. That is a very rare image that Ram Singh has managed to capture. So that definitely is my favorite collection. I think he's captured women in their true, honest sense, and also in a very confident and powerful frame, which I think even today is a great source of inspiration to many photographers or even young women like myself. Another very interesting thing is that Ram Singh also, what we call the modern day selfie today, he was actually the first photographer to kind of start self-portraits.
Oh, amazing. So the selfie culture started way back then. Radhika, tell us about the Raja Ravi Verma residence in the palace. That's something, it's of intrigue to everybody who loves art and who knows about art.
Yes, I think the art lovers would probably know that Baroda was home and patron to Raja Ravi Verma for many, many years. We have his largest collection of paintings, and his residency was set up in Baroda, in the estate, because he was in Baroda for over 14 years. And we recently had the studio restored, and it's a beautiful space to be in, and it takes you back in time, and we still have the sink where he used to wash his colors and prepare his paints, and it just takes you back in time that you're in for a moment touching something as important in the history of art.
That goes down in history in more than that. And today you are very involved in promoting craft. Chanderi, of course, from your mother-in-law to your grandmother to the women in the family had been very empowered to promote crafts. And you have, in fact, there's a very interesting fact that Radhika has also involved the LGBTQ community in a very big way in all her endeavors. So that's great to see that the royals who were considered to be so traditional are so inclusive today. So that's a great step forward for modern India.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us about how have you, you have revived the craft of Chanderi, and of course Chanderi has become trendy today. So what has it taken, and where was, when you started off with Chanderi to now? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
So I'm wearing one of our revived Chanderis. So what happened was Chanderi over time, post-independence, when the patronage died out, most crafts in India, at least the refined crafts, were patronized by royalty and the temple. So these were the two main patrons of all important crafts and cultural testimonies. Post-independence, when that patronage died out, there was a corruption that came of the fabric. The yarn started getting stiffer, it was synthetic came in, people stopped wearing saris, the occasions died out, we were looking more towards the West. And there was an entire corruption of a fabric such as the Chanderi, which dates back to the Mughal times. and has been patronized by all royalty. In India, it was coveted even outside. And so the intent to revive not just a costume, but a craft became important, because craft means a culture, and culture means a community. And when you lose that block of craft, which is, in India, it is all by word of mouth. Parivar mein, it's passed on from father to son. There's no written documentation of craft. So when that link breaks, it is lost forever.
It is.
And therefore, it was the attempt was to, go back to
Revive
archives and pull out all the old designs from paintings, from photographs and old swatches, and sit with the weavers and recreate them.
Superb. Gauravi, you're doing something similar at the foundation, and we've seen you sitting with the women, with the weavers, kind of weaving dreams for them. Tell us, what are you doing with the foundation?
So the foundation was actually started almost 10 years ago by my mother in Savai Madhopur, which is a place near Jaipur. And over the past 10 years, we worked across fields of education, health, women's security, and skill building. Skill building being one of the main projects that we had. So I think what our main aim really is to make the women of the foundation financially independent, because I think today that's the most important. If anyone is financially independent, I think they can start their own startups, they can start their own ventures. So that's something that the foundation is really focusing on. But when it comes to craft, all the crafts that we work with at the foundation are local to Rajasthan. We work a lot with block printing, we work a lot with gotapati. And I totally agree that if you don't continue to preserve those crafts, they're going to die, because these crafts have been passed on from a grandfather to his son and then further to his son. So I think it's extremely important first to identify the craft and then to support the craft in a sustainable manner, because you could do one project with one artisan, but if you don't have a sustainable plan in order, then you're actually not benefiting the craft as a community. So I think that's something that we consciously try to take a decision on. And yeah.
Super. I think crafts is the way. I mean, India should be proud of our crafts heritage. We have so much to offer to the world. The world is coming to us and looking for us with crafts. And I think it starts from legacies like yours. My last question to both of you. Gauravi, the world has recently witnessed you collaborate and associated with brands like Cartier, in which you shot for the cover, Ralph Lauren, and Anita Dongre recently. What prompted you to open your heritage story to these evolved brands?
I think all of the brands that you mentioned and all of the brands that we've associated with, I'm truly grateful to have been associated with these brands, mainly because I feel like the Indian fashion at the moment, there's so many synergies between Indian fashion and global fashion. And I think it's a true privilege actually to be a little part of this circulation, of this cultural quotient. I feel like what we are witnessing today, this kind of exchange of creative ideas, exchange of synergies when it comes to fashion, I think for me to be part of this, to be a small part of this synergy and this cultural quotient is extremely important, and I'm quite honored to have been a part of this. I think other than that, it's also all of the associations that we've done have had a cause to it. So I think fashion for a cause is again something that I'm personally passionate about. I feel like whether it was with Ralph Lauren or Anita Dongre or any other brands in the future, there's a part of me that always is looking for a cause and a deeper rooted meaning to that association. So I think that's what, and when you said what made me open the heritage spaces, like I mentioned earlier, Sawai Jai Singh actually built Jaipur for these spaces to be open for projects like this. So I think what we're trying to do is just carrying forward his vision and trying our best to make these spaces available for more creative projects.
I think the family is doing an amazing job, and I think, Radhika, you have also opened your palace to many cultural events, introduced many other cultural things. My last question to you are often seen to be a lover of saris, Chanderi especially. How do you define your personal style beyond the sari?
Beyond a sari. Um, well, I think for me, I stand for culture and tradition. I think these are the values I grew up with. Very, very connected to my roots, and therefore, anything that is passed down generation is something that I cherish more. And the story of the sari or the silhouette or how we conduct ourselves, how we greet the elders, how we receive guests, all that becomes so entrenched in our DNA. I think I'm a sum of all the passed down generations and the wisdom and learning from this country and my ancestors.
Amazing. Thank you, Gauravi. Thank you, Radhika, for sharing some very insightful stories from the past and the present. And we wish you both the best to carry the legacies forward. Thank you.
Thank you.